These Syrians are demonstrating to keep the world's attention on the suffering of civilians struggling under blockades. In recent weeks, these images of severe hunger and starvation in Madaya forced the world to remember Syria. They were posted by activists and circulated on social media. There was no way of verifying them because the town was besieged by government forces. The scale of the suffering only became clear when UN aid workers were finally able to reach the town. This boy can hardly muster the strength to say, "I'm tired of this condition, get me out." He's among the hundreds starving, with some reports of people forced to eat leaves and stray animals. After weeks of negotiations, aid convoys reached tens of thousands of people blockaded by government forces. They also reached the villages of Fua and Kafrea, besieged by rebel fighters.
It's actually the first time where we were able to reach two areas controlled by two different sides of the conflict. And what we found there is that a large number of the children that we screened had severe malnutrition and malnutrition. One boy that we met on site sadly died in the hands of our doctor. There are 14 other madayas around Syria where parties to the conflict have been imposing siege.
But the Syrian government denies the suffering and says aid is being looted by what it calls terrorist groups.
There is no shortage of humanitarian assistance in Madaya.
Rebels say they blockaded towns in retaliation to government tactics, but they haven't commented on the suffering of civilians caught up in the conflict. A United Nations inquiry found that the Assad government has been using siege and starvation tactics for years. At the Yarmouk camp in 2014, desperately hungry civilians struggled to survive. It also besieged Homs, where people were later allowed to leave behind destroyed areas. The UN says the Syrian regime and other groups are committing atrocities. Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said this week the use of food as a weapon is a war crime. But statements like that don't mean much to hungry children. Many Syrians say they've heard it all in the last 5 years from those involved in the conflict and those failing to mediate a solution. The use of food as a weapon is becoming more frequent as warring sides seem to prefer controlling land rather than protecting the Syrian people. Osama bin Javed, Al Jazeera.